Hello and everyone. Hello and everyone. Hello everyone. Gosh, my mouth is broken today, so bear with me. I apologize. Hold on here. I'm checking the stream. I'm very rusty, but welcome to the full moon in Sidereal Pisces guided releasing practice. Let me make sure everything's in place. I'm Phaedra, for those of you who are new to the group or new to the Facebook channel or just watching a broadcast for the first time. I am the artist and astrologer of Mystick, Physick, Astrology. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm just like putting my eyeballs all over everything because I haven't done this in, gosh, several weeks, and I just took an update to OBS, so I'm just making sure everything's running smoothly. Welcome to the broadcast. Anyone who might be joining us live, if you want to let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. And I will get my notes pulled up here. Welcome. We're going to talk about the full moon in Pisces. The one today, tonight, October the 1st. We're going to talk about how we can use it to let go and make space for things in our lives. So we're going to talk about all that good stuff. So welcome to the broadcast. It's good to be back. So I use... this is important to talk about right off the bat. If you watched my broadcast before, you know this. I use Western Sidereal Astrology in my practice, and the idea is really that I'm intent on helping you find guidance that can help you just kind of reconnect with your soul purpose and help you remember why it is you came into the world to begin with. And I think tonight, the full moon in Pisces is going to touch on that quite a bit. And so we're going to spend some time with that. This is kind of an interesting full moon. I don't want to say that it's good or bad. I don't think that it's particularly either. I think that it is useful and that it contains an opportunity, and the outcome of it is going to depend on how you leverage that opportunity. But let me get my notes up at the top of the screen where I can read them a little bit more easily. Really with the broadcast, my aim is to provide guidance for you on how you can consciously use the energy of the transiting planets to affect your life in a positive way. And so the idea is we're learning how to use astrology to help us respond to our transits rather than just react to them, because they're going to happen anyway. And if we look ahead, see what they are, understand how they normally can play out or how they might affect us, we can be proactive rather than reactive. And so that's the idea. And tonight with the full moon in Pisces, we are going to be touching on faith and our capacity for faith. We're going to be touching on self-deception and escapism. And we're going to be looking at releasing old, outdated beliefs that just aren't true for you anymore, that don't resonate with you anymore. Some of them, maybe even if they ever were true for you, right? Sometimes we adopt beliefs that are ingrained in us in childhood, and they're more like we learned them from other people. They were taught to us. They're not necessarily beliefs that ring true for us. And so we're going to explore that a little bit. But let's talk first, in the first part of the broadcast, we're going to talk about the full moon, October 1st, the astrology of it, what it looks like, how we might experience it. In the middle part of the broadcast, we're going to talk about which house this falls into each of you according to your sidereal rising sign and what the themes of those houses are. That way, if you're fairly new to astrology or if you just don't have all the houses and things completely memorized, it will have a kind of a refresher for you. And then at the end of the broadcast in part 3, we're going to be looking at ways that we can explore old, outdated beliefs that just aren't serving us any longer, ways that we can let go of our own limitations and just make space of what's not serving us so that the new can move into our lives. This full moon, it's kind of an interesting full moon. It takes place October 1st, at least for me, but I'm generally working with Eastern Standard Time with the broadcasts, right? Not in terms of when we go live, but in terms of the chart that I'm looking at. This particular full moons in Pisces, full moons in water signs, they can be kind of emotional. And so you may notice that people's emotions, like they're kind of really close to the surface right now. It can really kind of be any kind of emotion. I think particularly with Mars retrograde, we're experiencing maybe some passive aggressive ways of releasing anger or approaching conflict. And that's kind of interesting. It's not necessarily healthy, but kind of interesting. But these can be emotional full moons. Of course, with this full moon, we're looking at 2 rulers, and we've kind of taken the perspective of our analysis from a view from both rulers just to see how things might play out. But we have retrograde Mars, we were just talking about, has just re-entered Pisces as of yesterday. And of course, Pisces is a sign of our full moon. And so this is about taking us back to revisit things. It's about taking us back to revisit the result of a previous course of action. It's asking us to rethink our decision or reconsider a different course of action and what that result might look like. But there's also a chance that this full moon could reignite a past conflict with, of course, the potential, due to aspects to retrograde Mars, for breaking a promise, a commitment, or breaking a long-standing tradition. So there's some interesting astrological dynamics going on with this one. What I really want to call out, though, is that it's an opportunity to go back to a previous decision or a previous course of action and just really rethink it, to really analyze, did you take the correct approach? Are the results that you're having now, or is the outcome that has played out since then what you expected to experience? Does it align with the reality that you thought you might have when you took that course of action or when you made that decision? Or has enough time passed that you're able to see, maybe that wasn't the right way to go. Maybe that wasn't the right approach. Maybe I need to go back to square one and do it a little bit differently. So in this sense, it's kind of a rare opportunity for you to go back and explore alternate endings. Now, I do want to point out that there is a risk that there's some confusion or indecision around what is the correct course of action for this full moon. And so we're probably experiencing a bit of second guessing ourselves. And if you'll hold just one moment, I just want to check the live feeds in both the group and on YouTube and see if we have any comments or any questions that I need to address as we go. Forgot to check that at the beginning of the broadcast, but thank you for your patience. So this full moon, this potentially second guessing our decisions, second guessing what we want, second guessing what we think we want. Allow your intuition to be your guide. Neptune rules. We're in Pisces. This is about your own inner guidance and your own inner knowing and getting in touch with that, right? It's not a time to try to be rational. It's not a time to try to be logical about which is your correct path forward or which is your correct decision. The rational mind is really great at justifying decisions that we've already made. And this is a full moon to be more guided by your inner knowing, right? That's what intuition means, your inner knowing. Now, you could experience disillusionment around previous decisions or courses of actions. And if you do, that's a strong invitation from this full moon to re-examine the path that you took, the course of action that you committed to. It's not too late to make a change, right? Also, I'd recommend be watchful of duplicitous behavior or deceptive behavior in others, but also in yourself. You want to avoid that kind of behavior because with this particular full moon, there's really kind of a potential for irrevocable consequences to come out of that if you would engage in that at this time. So keep everything above board. Don't be tempted to engage in duplicitous or deceptive behavior, and be wary of the potential for that in other people. But the chances for irrevocable consequences are in play. And these are consequences that could affect our lives in terms of public standing, in terms of social or marital status, in terms of reputation. There's a chance that this full moon could shift those things in an irrevocable way if we tempt fate in that sense. Some of these themes we're going to circle back around to at the end when we talk about our prompts for letting go. But that really kind of wraps it for talking about the astrology of the full moon in particular, this full moon. What I want to do now is dive into which house this is falling into each of you according to your sidereal rising sign, and then we'll move on into the releasing practice. I don't know about you, but I'm really ready for this. Kind of ready to be back in the saddle with the broadcast. I know we've missed quite a few. And speaking of, so Neptune, Jupiter, they co-rule this full moon. And so with the full moon being in Pisces, this is it's very nebulous energy. It's very hard to pin down. Neptune is kind of slippery. I was going back to my notes from last year just to look for maybe some inspiration for what I wanted to kind of work on or touch on with this particular guided releasing practice. And as I went back through my notes over several years, I had to go back to 2018 to find when I had last done a full moon in Pisces broadcast. So if we want to talk about slippery Neptune and nebulous Pisces, they've been escaping out the back door for quite some time in terms of doing a full moon releasing practice. So I think we're long overdue if you're one of my longtime watchers or followers. And so I invite you to join me. If you have Aries rising, we'll talk about Aries first. This is a 12th house full moon, so that's privacy and seclusion, right? It's the natural 12th house. It's spirituality, it's the unconscious mind, escapist tendencies, addictions, things like that. Alcohol and drug use are big 12th house themes. If you have Taurus rising, this is an 11th house full moon for you. So this has to do with friends and organizations. It has to do with hopes and dreams, especially long-held hopes and dreams, your deepest hopes and dreams. The work that you do on behalf of things like nonprofits or corporations, that sort of thing. If you have Gemini rising, this is going to be a 10th house full moon for you. So this could bring a career project that you've been working on or something in your professional field to culmination, to fulfillment. 10th house has to do with career, rewards, recognition, achievement, fame, mastery, status, and reputation. And at least for women, the 10th house can be related to marital status. Cancer, this is a 9th house full moon for you. So it has to do with international travel, international communication, things like immigration, publishing, broadcasting, that sort of thing, but also legal and higher education matters. And the 9th house specifically rules like religion as well, so church. Also can cover things like philosophy and law. That's where we're getting back into legal matters. For Leo rising, this will be an 8th house full moon for you. So that has to do with other people's money, has to do with debts, it has to do with taxes, insurance premiums, but also refunds due to you, insurance payouts that are due to you, has to do with inheritance, investment earnings, bonus and commission income. And then it can also relate to some other more esoteric or mundane topics, things like psychology, things like healing, things like investigation and research, deep explorations, the occult, death, rebirth, cycles of transformation are 8th house themes. For 7th house, this is going to be for 7th house. For Virgo, told you, my words are broken. For Virgo, this is going to be a 7th house full moon, which is, of course, related to partnership and marriage. This is long-term committed partnerships and your relationships with other people in general. It can also be business partnerships, so keep that in mind. And it can include open enemies, rivals, things like that. And it's a great house for doing shadow work, where we're talking about the descendant, specifically the opposite of the ascendant. We're getting into the parts of ourselves that we reject and project onto other people because we don't want to own those parts of ourselves. So if you're doing shadow work, if you've got Virgo rising, this is a good time to do it. For Libra rising, this is a 6th house full moon. So that relates to work and health, pets, daily routines, employees, if you have them, can fall under the 6th house. Things like schedules and habits. So at the full moon, you have an opportunity to let go of a bad habit, or if we're talking about where the 6th house relates to your diet and what you eat, it's an excellent time to be eliminating foods that you know are bad for you, especially bad for you long term. Okay. For Scorpio, it's a 5th house full moon. So this gets into creativity, children, love and romance, things that we do for pleasure, things that we enjoy, hobbies, sports, risk-taking, gambling, stuff like that. For Sagittarius, we're looking at a 4th house full moon. So for 4th house, this is home and family. It's real estate, right? It's your parents, and it can be both, or it could be just one. And whether it's the mother or father really is dependent a lot on your own natal chart. Typically, that's where you're going to look for clues, okay? And then the 4th house, of course, can also relate to your later life. We refer to the 4th house as kind of the end of the matter, okay? For Capricorn, this will be a 3rd house full moon. And so that's travel and communication that happen nearby to you, right? Not long distance. It's close distance over short distances. Childhood education, Teaching and learning experiences fall under the third house. Siblings, neighbors, extended family, things like aunts and uncles and cousins, those are all ruled by the third house. And your immediate environment, so your neighborhood, your community, that sort of thing. For Aquarius, we're looking at a second house full moon. So this relates to income that you earn from the work that you do every day. So your sixth house work, that is where your income shows up, is in the second house. So this is also related to wealth and possessions. It's related to movable assets and expenses. So money that you pay out for things that you need are also second house themes. I like the second house full moon for like purging things that you know you don't need anymore, going through and kind of decluttering around the house, donating, yard saling, whatever it is you need to do to get rid of things that you don't need, that you've just been holding on to. When you have the second house full moon, it's a great opportunity, especially to unload some of that for just some added income, to, like, you know, add to your rat hole of your stash cash, as we call it. For Pisces, of course, this is a first house full moon, and so the first house has to do with your identity, your appearance, your self-expression. It has to do with your physical body, your behaviors, your mannerisms, how you interact with the world around you, how you show up in the world, the role that you play in the world. And with Pisces, especially Pisces on the first house, this gives you kind of a chameleon sort of ability where you can really just kind of adapt to the needs of the moment in that sense. But it may also create situations where other people have a really hard time pinning you down or feeling like they understand or know the real you, or that they're seeing the real you. And sometimes that can trigger people to question our authenticity, right? So just be careful of that. If you have Pisces rising and there's, say, a piece of your identity that you've outgrown or a role that you've outgrown and you're ready to shed it, this could be a good opportunity to just kind of let it go, to release it, to make room for new roles to show up in your life, new things that you can do, new ways that you can contribute to the world. Okay? So if anyone's joining late or isn't sure what the themes are for their rising sign, hopefully you've checked your chart against the Fagan Bradley Sidereal Zodiac. Normally I talk about that at the beginning of the broadcast, and I didn't do that this time, partly because I was checking all the systems. And I'm actually just checking them again, looking for questions in the chat, making sure everything is good and working and that we're still live. And what we'll do now is step into part 3. And so in part 3, let me get my notes in front of me without, launching a new piece of astrology software right in the middle of a broadcast. So let me get my notes back in front of me, and we'll dive kind of into, we're going to talk first about the Pisces archetype and themes so that everyone kind of has a good foundation to know what we're working from. And then we're going to explore some releasing prompts. And I'm going to share with you the ones that we talked about 2 years ago, but I also added additional prompts this go around just to kind of give us a little bit more to work with. Some of what we had from 2 years ago just didn't seem as challenging or as meaty or as teeth sink inable as we might want for a full moon in Pisces, at least a full moon like this. Okay? So Pisces is mutable water. So it's shifting. It's nebulous. It's ephemeral. It's emotional. It's spiritual, right? It speaks to our core. It speaks to our non-physical self in that sense. Pisces is represented by the constellation of the fishes, right? So it falls in the 12th house of the natural zodiac. And it's ruled by Neptune. Excuse me. Neptune's considered the modern ruler. Co-ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter's considered the traditional ruler. And when we do these broadcasts, if there's a modern and traditional ruler, I do like to take a look at both and how the chart can be read from both perspectives. But Pisces represents endings. It's the conclusion of a cycle. It represents hidden things like the unconscious mind. It especially represents our beliefs, and especially the unconscious ones that we carry. It's the things that exist just kind of past the periphery of our vision, where you can kind of sense that something's there, but if you turn and look at it, it's gone. It's not there. So Pisces has this interesting quality in that it's difficult to examine straight on. Though we're going to give that a good try tonight. It is the natural home of the 12th house, like we said, which represents institutions of seclusion, things like hospitals, prisons, nursing homes, places where you go to withdraw from the world, places where you go to withdraw from daily life. The world and daily life, of course, in reality being represented by Pisces counterpart, Virgo. Okay? So this is, in terms of an archetype, a human archetype, this is the archetype of the martyr. That's one way Pisces can express. It's the most spiritual of all the signs, and so it also represents the archetype of the mystic and the dreamer. Can be the spiritual leader or like a monk type archetype. Think Jesus, especially being represented by the image of the fish. But it also is the archetype of like the delusional one, right? Someone who's lost their senses, lost touch with reality. Pisces can be the most inspirational of all the signs, but it can also be the most escapist. It's a sign that rules, as the end of the cycle, it rules decay. It's the breakdown of physical matter, returning to the dirt and soil of the earth, only to be reborn again in the next germination, represented by Aries, right? So it's the end of a cycle, but it's an important part of the cycle. It's the step right before the cycle renews and begins again, okay? It's the step that has to come before rebirth in the circle of life. So Pisces and Neptune in the birth chart, this area is going to show where we're capable of the greatest level of self-sacrifice. But it also shows where we're capable and most capable of deception, and that includes self-deception. Okay, so Pisces, Neptune in the birth chart is going to be describing those sorts of things. But it also is the sign of faith, and we're going to talk a little bit about faith more when we get into the prompts. It's about faith in the unknowable. It's about faith in the unprovable. It's about faith in things that you just can't point to in concrete physical terms and say, see, it's the sign opposite Virgo, as we were saying, which is the sign of our day-to-day reality. The sign of facts and figures. It's a very practical, tangible sign. Pisces is not those things. Okay. So in terms of the Pisces archetype and Pisces themes, we're going to dive into our full moon releasing practice. So hopefully you brought a pen and paper to the broadcast. And we're going to explore some of these new prompts. And if you'll give me a minute, I'm just going to take a quick drink. Glass is really full today. So, considering the area of your chart in which Pisces falls, I want you to consider where or how has a past decision or a course of action led you astray or knocked you off course? And do you need to change direction? Is the end point even the same as it was before, or has the end point changed? Has something that you've experienced, or has the reflection that you've had the chance to go through since this past action or past decision, has it highlighted where maybe things have changed just enough that you need to be looking for a different or new destination that's more reflective of who you are now and what your values are now and where you're at this moment in life? Okay. Have you been led astray or knocked off course? Or just do you need a course correction in general? Do you need to change direction? Now I'm going to go through a lot of these. Stick with one, maybe two. Don't feel like you need to address all of these prompts tonight. Okay. Also consider, where have your assumptions led you astray? Where have you maybe broken promises or have had someone break a promise to you? And have you allowed this to make you a martyr rather than actually taking responsibility for the direction of your life and taking responsibility for making changes in your life? Where are your boundaries too nebulous? There's a little bug flying around the light, And I don't know if you can see him on camera. I see these weird little streaks in the video. So maybe he's getting a close-up. Where are your boundaries too nebulous? Have you allowed others to take advantage without setting firm consequences for repeat offenses? That's an excellent question to be talking about in the full moon in Pisces. In what ways are you most prone to falling into self-sacrifice? Where are you making yourself a martyr? This is one that I like. What is well and truly rotten in your life? What do you need to dispose of? Where do you need to take out the trash or compost something, right? What secrets are you carrying that you might need to confess? Now, this could be literal confession, or it could be figurative confession. Because to my way of thinking, really the point of confession is that we admit to ourselves that what we did was wrong, right? Not so much that we admit to someone else or that someone else share in that knowledge, but that we admit to ourselves that what we did was wrong. Okay? In what ways do you try to escape, retreat, or run away rather than face what's difficult, or rather than face reality in the part of your life that Pisces occupies in your natal chart? What are your avoidant behaviors and how do those get you into trouble? Can you let go of them? Where or how are you engaging in deceptive behavior or in self-deception? And how is that holding you back from manifesting what it is you really want? How is that holding you back from happiness? Can you be willing to let that go? Can you be willing to face your own inner truth, your own inner knowing, and step out of self-deception? Okay. What beliefs are you carrying that no longer serve you? Where did they come from? I want you to take a close look at these beliefs and ask if they're really your beliefs, or did you learn them from someone else? Did you learn them from broader society? Were they ingrained into you from some outside source, or are they your inner capital T truths? What beliefs have you carried for years that just aren't true? This is a time to consider whether you've lost faith. What's caused you to lose faith and why? What disillusionment have you experienced that has made you question everything that you believe? What can you learn from that can help guide you back into faith? And I'd like to make a recommendation around faith. There's a really excellent resource if this is something that you're struggling with, reconnecting with faith or rediscovering faith after you've lost it, or just learning how to have faith to begin with. If you're someone who doesn't necessarily tend to lean on things like religion or spiritual beliefs or spiritual practices. Sometimes for those of us who are atheists, it can be really tough to connect to faith. But faith is a very profound part of our life, and you can still experience faith. It's still a very valuable tool in your toolbox, and you can learn it. And you don't need to have religion to do that. You don't need to have belief in a higher power, even though that can help. So the resource I want to point you to is Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, which you can buy just for a couple bucks online, or you can actually listen to the audio recording of that book on YouTube for free. I think it's right around an hour long. It's not a very long book. Oh, no. I'm confusing it with As a Man Thinketh. So Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, it is a lot longer, but it's definitely a worthwhile investment and a worthwhile read. There's a whole chapter on faith, and this is what I want to point you to. He talks about faith in that book and how you can cultivate it inside yourself. And I want to stand witness and testimony to the fact that that's possible. I did it myself using a lot of what he teaches as guidance. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. You want to explore the chapter on faith. And then finally, these are some bigger ones, and I'm going to recap these for anyone who might need that. And don't feel like you need to address all of them. But then these last few are some bigger ones. What escapist tendencies are you engaging in as a way to avoid facing the reality of your life? Not just facing difficulty, but facing the reality of your life. Are those behaviors really serving you? And at the core, this is what I want to call out. At the core of your escapism is really your deep unhappiness. And I can speak to that because I've been there. What are you unhappy over? That's what I want you to ask yourself tonight. What expectations or illusions have you been clinging to? Have you been carrying around that keep you from taking action to change your life? What are you afraid of letting slip away? And then finally, and I kind of think this is a bigger one, finally, I want to talk about, and it looks like we may be having trouble with YouTube, so I may have to upload a new broadcast to YouTube later. Facebook seems okay. What I want to ask you, now that we've reached the end, this is kind of like the big question. Will you spend the rest of your life playing out fantasies in your head? Or will you take a leap of faith and act in the face of uncertainty? Can you trust in the unknown? Can you trust the non-physical you to know better than your monkey mind? So, what we're going to do now is write down all the ways that we've identified Piscean behaviors or beliefs or patterns that are no longer serving us on a piece of paper. And then when we're done, we're going to reconnect here on the broadcast and do the releasing practice in and of itself. If you kind of know how you're going to approach this releasing, go ahead and get started with your writing. I'm going to recap these prompts real quick and then I'll do mine. Considering the area of your life ruled by the house in which Pisces falls, we're using your sidereal natal chart. Remember, where or how has a past decision or course of action led you astray or knocked you off course? And do you need to change direction? Do you need a course correction? Where have your assumptions led you astray? Are they even based in reality? Have you even bothered to verify whether your assumptions are accurate? Where have you broken promises or had someone break promise to you? Have you allowed this to make you a martyr versus taking responsibility for making changes in your life? Where are your boundaries too nebulous? Have you allowed others to take advantage without setting firm consequences for repeat offenses and following through on those consequences? You have to set deadlines for action sometimes. You have to set consequences for behaviors, especially in the way that people treat you. In what ways are you most prone to self-sacrifice, and where do you make yourself a martyr? This is really something to consider. What is well and truly rotten in your life? What needs disposed of? What secrets are you carrying that you need to confess? And in what ways do you try to escape or retreat or run away rather than face what's difficult or face reality in the area of your life ruled by Pisces? What are your avoidant behaviors that you run to in those situations? Where or how are you engaging in deceptive behavior or in self-deception? Especially, this could be self-deception around whether or not other people are being upright or forthright or honest with you, right? Are you letting other people fool you just through your lack of wanting to see that they're fooling you? How is that holding you back from manifesting what you want in life? How is that holding you back from happiness? And can you be willing to let go of the self-deception? We would call it willful blindness, right? What beliefs do you carry that no longer serve you? Where did they come from? And are they really truly yours? Or did you learn them from some sort of outside influence? What beliefs have you carried all these years that just aren't really reflective of you, of your values, of the way that you see the world? What's caused you to lose faith and why? What disillusionment have you experienced that has made you question everything that you believe? And what can you learn from that that can help lead you back to faith? And then these final two, what escapist tendencies are you engaging in as a way to avoid facing reality in life? And are those behaviors really serving you? Because at the core is really unhappiness. And so this requires being willing to examine, what are you unhappy over? What expectations or illusions have you been clinging to that are keeping you from taking action in your life? What is it you're afraid of letting slip away, right? What are you unhappy over? And can you let go of your fear of going after that? And what risks that might entail? Because that has to do with fear of the unknown, right? So the big question is, will you spend your life playing out fantasies in your head, or will you take a leap of faith and act in the face of uncertainty? And can you trust in the unknown? That's really what this is about. Can you trust the non-physical version of yourself to know better than your rational mind, the monkey mind? Can you trust that the non-physical version of yourself has a broader view, a bird's eye view, not only of where you are, but a deeper understanding of where you want and how you can get there in the way that most suits your own personal growth, development, and highest good? Where are you second guessing your own inner knowing instead of trusting in the unfolding of it all? Okay. So write down ways in which you've identified those Piscean beliefs and behaviors or attitudes or patterns or whatever that just aren't serving you any longer. We're going to write them down on a piece of paper, and then we're going to come back to the broadcast and do our actual releasing podcast. All right, everyone go. Check on things here. We're having some trouble with the YouTube stream, but it looks like it's back and working in excellent condition. Alrighty, so here we go. Feel free to share what you're letting go of in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, what it is you're releasing tonight. And I'll share with you what I'm letting go of. So for me, I'm working with my Gemini rising sign, and so this kind of relates to 10th house, right? So career and professional life. Which has been kind of shifting around a lot lately, in the sense that I do occasionally do non-astrology related work, not very often, but lately I found myself taking on more and more and more of that just due to current circumstances, which are temporary, so it's not a permanent thing. I will be back doing astrology full-time in the somewhat near future, but it's been interesting seeing things shift around, and that's part of why you haven't seen so much of me lately, and I apologize for that. I really can't wait to get back to it. Everyone's been asking about the Ultimate Astrological Planner for 2021, and that is still in the works. It's coming. It is a bit behind schedule, and I do apologize for that. I've really had quite a lot going on in terms of demands on my time and things vying for my attention in the last, say 2 months or so. But hopefully things will calm down and settle down, but probably not until mid-November or so. So there's a little ways to go yet. So I just ask for your patience in that. Totally off topic of doing our releasing practice. But yes, for me, it's 10th house. It's career, profession, it's status, it's reputation, right? It has to do with public life. So what I wrote, I'm kind of taking this interesting approach to maybe energetic experiences I'm having in my personal life. Maybe this is like psychological, what have you, doesn't really matter. But there's a theme that's been going on for a good chunk of this year around my professional life. And that's kind of what I'm playing with here tonight. And so what I wrote is, I intend to release my resistance to spending time in my new office. I don't know, some of you know I got divorced last year, and so that involved rearranging my home and reconfiguring things, and part of that involved moving my office where I used to broadcast from downstairs to the upstairs of my house, and I just have not really been aligning with the energy of it. It doesn't seem to matter how much sage or Palo Santo or blessings or whatever I do, just the room. I don't know what it is about the room, but I'm always finding reasons to not be in it. And I've been working with this energy because I recognize how I feel when I'm in this room. And I recognize that I tend to avoid that feeling by just not coming in here, right? I find lots of other places in my house to be and to do work, even on my computer, even on my laptop, even astrology related work, just not here. And so I really want to release whatever this resistance is. I'd like to understand it personally, but I want to release it. I want to release my resistance to spending time in this space. I want to release my negative thought patterns around this room, and the way they've attached themselves to negative thought patterns around the work that I do in my professional life. I also wrote, I release the expectations. This is an interesting and key one for me because things have changed so much since I first started my astrology practice. I release the expectations that I originally had for my career and professional life when I first started doing this. And I give myself permission. I think this is important, to give yourself permission to do things, right? I give myself permission to take a leap of faith into the unknown, into the future, in a new direction, on a new path. I release my desire to escape and avoid what is uncomfortable in my work, and I release these things with gratitude, these things that are no longer serving me. I release them with gratitude for the lessons which they brought to my life, and I release these things with love. And so that's what you're going to do with your releasing. Just read out what it is and announce your intention to let go of them and to release them with love and gratitude for the lessons that they brought to your life while they were there, no matter what they are. Oh, I'm seeing a note here at the bottom that I didn't even pay attention to while I was updating my notes. This will be a fun thing. And I actually have the equipment now to record what I'm about to talk to you about. So you're going to burn your paper in a fire-safe place. And that's the energetic releasing, right? That reflects your intention on the physical plane to let go of whatever this is. Now, if you don't want to burn it, you can always tear it up into tiny little pieces and release it that way. If you want to burn it, I encourage making sure it's burned completely and do it in a fire-safe place. Do it in a fireplace or a barbecue pit or something like that. If you don't have access to something like that, you could use your kitchen sink. You'd have water right there. It's probably a ceramic or metal basin that's fireproof. But make sure it burns all the way and be safe about what you're doing, okay? Use your fireplace or something like that. Something that's designed for the practice. So normally what I encourage you to do after you let go is just spend a few minutes in quiet meditation or reflection. Just spend a moment, and you can close your eyes and do it just like I'm doing it, to allow yourself to move into this new space that you've made through letting go of what it is that you're wanting to let go of. What does this new space feel like? Just let yourself sit there for a minute and get accustomed to what it feels like. Okay? Kind of like when you move from lightness to dark and you have to let your eyes adjust to the light, or if you've been in a dark room and you go outside and it's bright and you have to let your eyes adjust, right? Before you can really get your bearings. So I want you to do that energetically with this full moon. After you've done your releasing practice, just spend a little bit to just go into feeling what this new space feels like and give yourself a chance to kind of get adjusted to your surroundings. Okay? Now, what I have here in my notes, and hopefully I can post this in the comments without throwing the connection off for the broadcast. This is a link to my energy cord releasing meditation. Now, this is just a write-up for the meditation practice to help you release energy cords. I would like to record it and do an audio recording of it for you. I haven't ever done that yet. It's something that folks have asked me to do in the past. I've never taken the time to. I actually have the equipment to do it now. I could do it. And so I would like to do that. I don't know how soon that'll happen, but I want to make this available to you to download, read through it, do the practice. It can be quite, I don't know if rejuvenating is the right word. Maybe it is. It doesn't feel like the right word. Liberating, maybe. Uh, anyway, it can really put you in a new space, physically, emotionally, energetically, mentally. And I would encourage you to do this practice, and even do it as often as you feel you need to. Do it as often as necessary. I'm trying to post it in the Facebook. No, what the heck is going wrong here? Oh, have I not been broadcasting to Facebook? I could swear I had a Facebook feed. That's all right. I can't post the comment because it says I'm not live. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe it disconnected the live video at some point because I could swear I was live not that long ago. Anyway, I'll go back into Facebook and I will pop this in the comments after I hop off the live broadcast. But I want to invite you to download this energy cord releasing meditation and to put it into practice in your life. And if you've already downloaded it, if you've done it before, do it again. If you've gone through the experience, please come back to the comments and tell me about your experience. I'm really curious to know, especially if it's your first time, how did this go for you? What was your experience like? Okay? And it looks like my stream has been dumped. Something's happened. I don't know. It says I'm not streaming. Well, I guess that wraps it. Let me go ahead and check my notes to see if there's any final comments. That's really kind of it. Stay tuned for news on the 2021 Ultimate Astrological Planner. If you're waiting for work from me, I do apologize. It is in process and coming, and I do appreciate your patience. And stay tuned. I hope to be back at the Sidereal Insights Astro Update broadcasts very, very soon. Those happen every other Monday at 1:30 Mountain Standard Time on the Mystick Physick Astrology Facebook page and on YouTube typically. Hopefully I'll have those going again for you very soon. And thank you for joining me for the full moon in Sidereal Pisces releasing practice. And we'll see you again next time.